Hi everyone. I've missed you so much. I'm making this video because I missed you. And I want you to know where I've been and what I've been up to. And maybe so that you don't worry anymore. Maybe. This talk probably has more than one chapter. So I'll start with the first. I've lived a very full life. And that I go deeply into things. I'm the proverbial why asker. And over my life, and especially over last year, I've been going through a change, a development, a challenge, a healing crisis. In March of this year, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which is basically a label for what other people call something that they see expressed as different. And so it needs a name to separate it from them. So let's move from here, pretending with me that you know nothing about ADHD. If you've got friends with it, family, if you yourself, pretend you know nothing about it, so that I may explain to you what I've learned from my research and my experience. I was born 8 weeks and 5 days before my due date. That puts my birth into the world at the beginning of what would have been the third trimester. Now, at the beginning of the third trimester is when your nervous system, our nervous systems, kind of really are more or less formed in its entirety, and it starts to kind of wire and develop all the way through the brain until we're born. And that's kind of when medicine dictates that our prefrontal cortex, the seat of our like executive function, choice making, kind of comes online, and always starts developing that. So at the beginning of the third trimester, or at that point in my physical development, instead of a warm, dark womb with muffled sounds and like not having to work to eat at all, I came into a world of light and noise cold metal. I spent my first 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that in an incubator. And this was the 80s, so good time. But we didn't know as much about the importance of contact, touch, at that early stage. So as my nervous system wired to its environment, just as those that kind of come full term, we kind of reach out into the world and determine what's most important. And in the womb, I imagine that this importance is quite linear in its growth, educated by the grace of our mother. And so when I was born, I didn't have that same teacher. When I was born, there was so much information. And food, light, touch. I had to sift through all of that to determine what was the most important for my life, for my living. And I believe that when I did that, what I found most was love. 'Cause I may have been in an incubator, I may have been in a physical separateness, but I was the most loved. Most loved. And I wired to that. So fast forward through life. And as I grew, I continued to interpret all these points of data to determine what was most important, what was true, because I couldn't believe what I'd been told, because that connection, that reliance maybe, was atypically interrupted. We can also note that I was born in a time, 85 if you're curious, when, man, I had a TV and I sat in front of that shit close. And although those kind of screens look steady, like the one you're looking at maybe right now, light is flashing, frame rate, really quickly. And our brains interpret that. And they kind of wire to react that quickly. I was also born in a time where libraries were ubiquitous. So I had this like wealth of knowledge always available to me. More data. And then as a young teenager, I made my first computer and used it to hook up to the internet. And that's just an explosion of knowledge, connection, and expressions of creativity. I also live in one of the most wonderful, and in my experience, certainly the most diverse places in the world, Toronto. So many data points, so much truth to be observed. So as I read and learned and interpreted over time, the things that were the most important became, well, they were emergent. And at this time of my life, at this time for all of us, it hit a tipping point where I couldn't continue without help. Because what I found was the most important. The world wasn't really providing my world. So another way of also looking at the experience of a unique nervous system such as mine is the examination of the action of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Now, all of this is simplification, but it's pretty darn accurate. Dopamine helps us to move. It helps dictate the reward cycle in our consciousness. It's what helps us pick a target and then move towards it. Even more simply and importantly, the release of this neurotransmitter dominates voluntary movement, voluntary action. And when you know or believe you know how to move towards your target, what you know your target is, then I reckon your dopamine release would grow and develop to be sufficient. mine, I reckon it's kind of like yours. Except every time I do something, I don't really know if it's the right target. And I don't really know the best way to get there. So I kind of use everything I know every time I move. And I've learned, in contrast to my experience with medicine, that that's really exhausting, especially when you learn more. So, what has occurred generally in my life is, and what I've been going through, is the inability to do what I want. And on the outside, this looks like procrastination. On the outside, this looks like laziness. But when your system doesn't create enough of the moving chemical, it figures out ways to get there. Right? So, novelty seeking is one of the classifications that are imposed upon us that are different. And it's not so much novelty seeking, it's dopamine activation. Yeah? Like, when all of us do something for the first time, we stimulate the most release of that dopamine. Helps us learn, helps activate our memory, all that good stuff. But as we continue to do the task and becomes more repetitive, there's less dopamine release. And this is a good thing for all of us, and this is the way it works for all of us. This is a little bit the biological stimulation for progress, for moving forward. But this world is filled with the demands of repetition. So to get myself to do something I really need to do, but I've done a million times, like my invoicing, for example. It's a good one. I'll probably use it again. I'm like, I gotta do this. I really want to, because I gotta get paid, yo. But to get myself to do it, it's like, okay, let me put on music. Okay, let me get some coffee, which stimulates dopamine release too. But I like coffee. Maybe that's why. You know. Okay, cool. Like, there's that other chore that is repetitious, but it's a little less daunting than the invoicing. So, like, I can maybe do that a little bit, and eventually building up to momentum to get to the task that I want to do the most. And it's always the task that I want to do the most that's hardest. Impulsivity is another quality attributed to nervous systems that are different. Fuck impulsivity. One, sometimes we can just make choices quickly. All that thinking, because we do it all the time, maybe I do. Like, you get good at it. And it happens faster. So it's not so much impulsive as it is, I know what I want and what's important. And then also, there's a sense of urgency when consciously and unconsciously, mostly unconsciously, you kind of weak. Like, I know it's like to do a thing, I gotta do it quickly. When I've got that urge, because if I don't, it might not get done. And things undone have been torturous. Because it's hard to finish things when the novelty runs out. It's hard to finish things when you know what's gotta get done next, so you've already kind of moved on, and to bring yourself to do the thing before it is so hard. And it's not psychological. It's literally difficult to move. I remember when I first learned that I probably have ADHD. I was researching, and I was reading this book called Spark, the Revolutionary Science of Exercise and its effect on the brain. And I came to this chapter about ADHD, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't know how relevant this is going to be for like my students, for myself, but I'll learn something. I always do. And then I proceeded to hear, because I'm listening to an audiobook, a description of my whole life in a way that I've never felt included before. A description of my challenges, my struggles, and all the guilt and shame that I've carried by virtue of not understanding. And maybe we can all relate to that. So when I found out more about the condition of my neurology, I started to challenge it. Because that's how I do. And I remember the first time I sat in front of this computer to do my invoicing. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do all those things. Like, I'm going to will myself to do this. And it was my first experience of not being able to move my body, being conscious and aware. And not being able to move any part of my body. It was terrifying. And I think that you can imagine. Because maybe my condition is just an extreme expression of all of us. And when you procrastinate, it's not really a procrastination, it's fuck, I don't want to do this thing again, but I got to. So you don't move. And you give it a reason. Like, I'm just Netflix and chilling, yo. I love being me. I love the way that I am. But not always. Maybe just like you. Because it's hard. And the hardest part, and what I've really been going through, the real challenge, the real reason maybe I haven't been around as much as I've really wanted to be. Aside from the challenge of learning, embracing these new developments in my mind and my body, is the lack of support that this world, our society is a better way of putting it, inherently does not provide. Over the last year, as a result in a way of my evolution, I have watched my career that I have worked so hard to build as a teacher of yoga, but as a human being, maybe for all of us, as all of us. I've watched my career fall apart. I've watched, not for the first time, my finances, my financial situation crash. I've had to work so hard to receive the help that I am getting from our medical institutions. And ours is one of the best in the world here in Canada. I think maybe one of the hardest challenges, maybe if not the, has been the conflict and the judgments of it being misunderstood. being misunderstood by people that think they understand. And that's the worst. Because you can offer feedback and be like, yeah, no, that's not really how it feels, or that's not really how I am, or like, this is my experience, let me tell you about my experience. And because they already understand and it's in conflict with the feedback, I must be wrong. Because they know they're right. And so the support has been oriented more towards what others think I need, instead of what I ask for. Which is usually just love and all its representations. When it's hard to do what's voluntary, and your world is crashing around you materially, and your mind and body are responding in ways that are so different than what I'm used to. I want to thank you all for those who have reached out, either through messages, mails, emails, or just like telepathically. I love you so much. Thank you for doing that. And understand that I've always wanted to be with you. But when it's hard to move, and everything's crashing, the movements that get prioritized are those around survival. And I know you want to help, but what I've been going through wasn't for you to help me with. Thank you. I love you. You have been right to worry about me. What I've been going through has been worrisome. And beyond the strangeness of my growing and being myself, I don't want to worry you more. It's like, hey, yes, be worried. You should be more worried, and you can't do anything about it. It's not nice. Not when I already feel your love. And I hope that you've relied on mine, and that's been persistent. And if that reliance faltered at all, look back and be like, oh, it was there. Because you could do that. This is how we change the past. And that's a thing. It's called multiple past theory. Richard Feynman. Look it up. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I love you. So that's one way of kind of explaining and expressing where I've been and what I've been up to. The other, which is just as true, just a different perspective, is what I've been going through is natural. And what we're all going through together is natural. These shifts, these different feelings, these different realizations, we ascribe the way we understand things to what we don't understand. Be it spirit, be it love, be it family, be it societal structure, and time. And maybe what I've been going through has been the most natural thing. Like the differences between a 2-year-old and a 3. Maybe we're all going through that a little bit, because all of us are reaching a kind of tipping point of awareness, of connectivity. And that explains where I've been and what I've been doing. Because I have been the least idle. I have been the most active. And I have learned so much about us. And we are the most beautiful. And we're doing it. We're making the world a better place. It's fantastic. This is what this looks like. Our present economic system is based on lack. Our money is created out of thin air by central banks, which are privately owned. So, for example, the Bank of Canada has a very kind of like national name, government sounding, but it's privately owned. And when they make money up, they lend it at interest. So every dollar that's lent is owed back at like $1, the least interest. But where's that cent coming from? If there was only $1 put out. It comes from our will. It comes at the expense of our choices, of our freedom. That's why it feels like every exchange is a payment. and a receipt. So another way of looking at it, my growing is how conflicted we are as beings with the structures that we've built up around us. But we are the creators. And that awareness, that understanding is becoming more prevalent. It's emerging. And we are creating the better world. We are being led. We are following, and we're doing it together. Believe me, or don't believe me, and look into it, because the data is there. So, I'm declaring bankruptcy this month. It's a bad word. Why? I'm not ashamed. I'm disappointed. And not in myself. Because I know from me that I've lived my whole life trying to be a good person. Everything that I've done, every choice I've made, every failing has been an attempt to be a good person and to be kind and help others. And I don't know about altruistically, just like naturally, that's who I am. And who I can admit to myself to be. And this is the way society rewards me. A school system that ostracized me. An employment market that didn't support me. A credit system that took advantage the most, but like really takes advantage of us all. No assets, no savings. And you know what? I'm actually kind of proud about those things. Because the value of the dollar is in how it's spent. When you look at your account and you look at your savings, those numbers mean nothing. How you spend your money. And until then, it's value is not expressed. And what do we own, really? That wasn't given and won't be given back. Only nothing. The nothing that we hoard. I'm disappointed. But I am not without faith. Because what I have the most of is love. And friendships and connections with integrity. Joy, laughter, and reasons for them. I have these the most. I know, like, if like there was like a ranking of beings that laugh the most and the deepest, I'd be like pretty high up there. Because I like to make myself laugh. I like laughing together. So I'm setting up a GoFundMe to give anyone the opportunity or the choice to express value in a way that they might choose if I gave you the choice. I'm setting it up, and why I'm kind of inspired to, really, is I saw this article recently about $1 million being raised to create a statue of LeBron James in his hometown. And of course, like, my instinct is to scoff, because I mean, I scoff at silly things. But when they asked him about it, or when people talk about it one way or another, they talk about their pride and the inspiration of him. And he expresses gratitude, and that he's grateful that his journey, his efforts have been meaningful to others. So they're making this statue and raising $1 million to make it. Now granted, a statue is art, and art can be beautiful. But art is the beautiful corpse of someone's vision, of someone's idea. Art is what we look back upon. One of my favorite people from history is Leonardo da Vinci. And he had qualities that could be expressed as neurologically different. Unsatisfied until. And why I bring him up is that the magic of the Mona Lisa is that he never finished it. It was alive until he wasn't. Always adding this and that. Living art. And I think that's really beautiful, inspiring. And so, in that kind of fashion, I'm setting up this account. If you want to invest in a living monument, because everything that I do is for us, and that's where the money will go. And I'm so grateful. I do it all for us. Because people are different. And that's how I am. I somewhat purposefully made this video long because I had a lot to say, and I wanted to take my time. Because this next portion of my life, I just want to slow down. You know, I've started taking medication, and it is fucking amazing and how helpful it is. Quick note on the medication, because people have a lot of judgment around it. One, it's kind of like glasses, you know? It just helps me do something that I could do without it, but just better. Now granted, like, without medication, I can have a lot of difficulty even moving, talking, especially if I want to. Being frozen and alive, like a statue, has become too familiar an experience. It sucks. And medication helps. It's just another form of energy. And then another way of looking at it is, I don't think I'd need anything like it if I wasn't constantly being squeezed into a box that's not natural. Because I've noticed when it's the most helpful is, and when I need it the most, is when I'm alone. I get energy and inspiration, motivation by people, with people. And we're all really good at different things. And if given the chance, I know, because we do it despite the restrictions, despite what's hard, I know that I'd be more and more surrounded by the people that compliment me and that I compliment. And so none of us are ever really doing what we don't want to do. Which sounds kind of impossible, but it's not. The other reason I made this video all in one go and kind of long is We deserve it. We deserve more than 3-minute bites of information. We deserve more time with each other. And it takes giving that time. And I'll continue to give you mine. Right? Where are we at? Like about the length of a yoga class? I'd love to teach. I'd love to see you all in the class again, but I can't. I'm still learning and still growing the ins and outs of my condition, and it makes making regular commitments kind of hard in that way. Makes some things just fucking impossible for now. And also, there's a part of me that just like, that's just not the best way that I can continue to serve, and I know that. I've been the most active in what I'm building, in what I'm creating for us. And I'm going to continue to do that. I just want to do it slowly. All this like rapid iteration and putting out MVPs, minimal viable products. Fuck. What I'm creating, I want to give time to. And so that's, you know, where that's what you'd invest in. Also kind of is sharing time, because every I'm trying to keep the curses to a minimum, although I'm a big fan and of the appropriateness of cursive language, and I don't mean handwriting. You work hard for the value that you receive. It's your time. And how you invest your time is your life. And we're not separate. We live together. So if you want to share your time with me, I appreciate it, and I'll continue to share my time with you. Because I love you. And if you think that I'm not talking to you, I am. And the more I know you, the more I love you. Maybe I'll close, because I have so much I want to tell you, but it takes time. It takes giving it. But maybe I'll close with this. The colloquialism of like, people so busy trying not to die that they never live. Sure. But I want to take that a little further. First, a little recognition. I want to die. And you've had that thought too. And we live in this misunderstood paradigm like that's an awful thing to think. But maybe it's not. Maybe death is misunderstood. And there's something inherently lovely about that desire. But here we are, to live. And maybe there's something inherently important about that. So, instead of just trying to stave off death, maybe we can instead keep moving towards it. And let your life have meaning. Let your life have purpose. Ask yourself, if I die today, what am I doing that would be left undone? That's important. And if your answer to that is nothing, then you can die happily. Maybe because you've done. And chances are, I bet you're a pretty happy person. And if your answer to that is nothing, and that makes you realize a kind of misery, then do something with your life. Do something that, if left undone, you would fight to live for. Love is the because of everything. Trust me, I know. I'm the why asker. And the answer to every why is love. Try it. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? The answer is always love. And I'm a big fan of desire. And it's got a bad rap. In the literatures and the teachings, detach from desire. And how I might mature that is to detach from lack. Desire to love. Not to have it. Live to give love. And when you look upon your life, you might find that you have only what you gave. And that could be a lot. Thank you for your time. Thank you for practicing. Thank you for doing all the things that you do to become more like you. Because it makes you more like us. All of us. Together. Doing all of this. Whatever all this is. Together. For love. I can't wait to see you again. Namaste.